Hey guys, it's Mr. Valentin, and today we're going to go over some quotation techniques that we will want to embed into our own writing. So I was searching on the internet to try to find some information about how to best integrate quotations, and I always think there's three very distinct ways to integrate. That said, as I was searching the internet, I kept seeing information pop up about what do reporters do to find the best quotations. And oddly enough, in this article, they use the three techniques that I do. So we're going to take a look at this article and see what the author does and try to embed those in our own writing. So this comes from Ask ProPublica, Illinois, and it's titled Say What? How Reporters Gather and Use Quotations. So it begins. A year ago, we asked ProPublica Illinois readers what they wanted to know about how we do our work. Thoughtful and challenging questions have been rolling in ever since, and we've been answering them in occasional series of columns. In this dispatch, Deputy Editor Steve Mills answers a question about quotations. So the question begins. I am curious about quotations in journalism. There seems to be so much conflict currently about what people have actually said or the context in which they said it. How are the quotes obtained and chosen? Why aren't more things recorded to eliminate or minimize the arguments? And I think this is a great question because essentially you could end up with a whole paper full of quotations, and that's something we want to avoid. So we want to pick and choose carefully. So the response. Reporters work hard to get compelling or colorful quotations. It's how we show people saying what they want to say in their own words. But getting those good quotations can be hard work. For some stories, we interview our subjects several times. Sometimes we ask the same questions more than once or in subtly different ways, hoping to get a good quotation. But what's a good quotation? For my money, the best quotations reveal the truth about the person being quoted. They help reflect the speaker's opinions on the subject of the story, hopefully in a lively manner, while offering a clue to their personality and how they use language. They capture a person's emotions in their own words. And that's essentially it. That you need to find the best quotations, and you may need to search through several different databases and different articles that are essentially saying the same thing, but you want the one that economizes the words and says it in the most colorful and powerful way imaginable. Continuing on, I was struck by a quotation in ProPublica Illinois reporter Dua Eldeb's story last month about six young men being released from prison after Governor Bruce Rauner commuted their sentences. The young men had received lengthy sentences in adult prisons for minor infractions that occurred while they were in juvenile correction facility in southern Illinois. Eldeb interviewed Shakira Cosset, whose 19-year-old son, Jacelyn Banks, had his 8-year sentence commuted and was ordered free. This is what Cosset told Eldeb as she wanted for her son to be released. It won't be real to me until I can wrap my hands around him. The sentence said everything about a mother's worry for her son. So not only is the quotation powerful, but I want you to take note of what the author does here. We get a complete sentence. This is what Cosset told Eldeb as she waited for her son to be released. And notice there's a colon. So one technique I want you to think about is a full sentence into a colon followed by a quotation. Quotations also help move stories forward. They don't echo what the reporter has already written in his or her own words. Instead, they add an urgency to the story as it moves to its natural finishing point. And this is something I can't emphasize enough. If your quotation is merely repeating what you've said, then why bother with the quotation? It's a total waste of time and energy. Find quotations that push your ideas forward. Don't spend time just icing it, right? You don't just introduce, cite, explain. You introduce, you cite, but then you probe and you question and you explore and explain. Quotations are especially good for memorializing promises and statements from public officials. That's why so many stories about the government shutdown included President Donald Trump's boast made in a meeting with congressional Democrats that he would be proud to shut down the government for border security. Not that it has stopped Trump from tuning around and blaming Democrats for the shutdown since then. So as we read stories, we always want to be aware of the slant. And here you can note a little bit of a liberal slant here. And so we want to be careful that we're finding neutral sources. A technique that the author does here, though, is he makes the quotation part of his sentence. So, in essence, our quotations become part of someone else's quotations, become part of your own words. So, here we see that's why so many stories about the government shutdown have included President Donald Trump's boast made in a meeting with congressional Democrats that he would be proud to shut down the government for border security. So a second technique I want you to keep in mind is letting quote integration be part of your sentence. That's another thing about quotations. They don't stop the person who is quoted from denying their own comments or claiming that what they said had been taken out of context. Not that we never get quotations wrong or never paraphrase them clumsily, but people sometimes forget or don't realize everything they've told reporters, or they are mortified when they later see their words in print or online, so they complain. That's why many reporters record interviews. Recorders are especially prevalent in Washington when you see the reporters in scrums around officials reaching with recording devices to take interviews or statements. I was never a fan of using a tape recorder. It could be intrusive, but I was never hesitant to ask someone to repeat or clarify what they had said to, or just talk slower so my note taking could keep up with their speaking. And on particularly contentious or sensitive stories, such as investigations, I sometimes went over the quotations with the person I was quoting. I wouldn't allow them to change their quotations so they could sound better, but I wanted to be sure I quoted them correctly and in context. Now, thankfully for this, we don't have to worry about quoting quote in context, but down the line, if we're creating podcasts, this is something we want to keep in mind. And having that recording device helps us with accuracy and helps us understand the context in which something was said. One of my favorite quotations came in a story I wrote about two Northern Illinois sisters who were among the world's leading cow picturers, photographers of cows for breeding catalogs, calendars, yes, for calendars, and others uses. As I watched them work one day, one of the sisters deadpanned, "Not every cow is photogenic." I wrote down those words, and they knew they'd make it into the story. And here we see the last technique as a writer, right? As I watched them work one day, one of the sisters deadpanned, comma, quotation, "Not every cow is photogenic." And so here it's very much similar to "he said," comma, quotation, but we're giving a little more emphasis to the sentence, and it's something to help flourish your writing. So, in review, the three things we want to keep in mind with our writing with quotations. One, write with a full sentence followed by a colon and then your quotation. The second one, can you embed the quotation to be part of a sentence? And then the third one, can you give a variation of the he said, she said quotation? Once you've tried this technique, make sure you've shown it to me and make sure we've done it correctly, and we'll communicate and conference together. Thank you.